Bonjour, Hélène. Welcome to Puebla. How are you?
Buenos dias, Carlos. Nice to meet you.
Did you have a good flight?
Yes, it was fine. I had a good night's sleep, so I'm ready for a full day of meetings.
Okay, that's good news. Please, have a seat.
Thank you.
If it's okay with you, I thought we'd have our first round of meetings with the sales team now, and then take a break for lunch at around 2. I've scheduled a meeting with marketing for 4 p.m., and we should be finished by around 6.
2 p.m. lunch and meetings until 6. Yes, that's fine. I hear you eat lunch later here than we do in France. And I'm looking forward to trying some Mexican food.
Great. There's a nice restaurant close by. The food is highly recommended. I hope you'll like it.
I'm sure I will. I've never had, how do you say it, mole poblano? Everyone tells me Puebla is the best place to try it.
Yes, it definitely is. So, let's get the sales team in and we can start the meeting.
Sure, let's do that.
The teacher who couldn't read. What qualities do you think a good educator needs to have? Most people would agree that a teacher needs to be well educated and able to read and write in order to help others learn those skills. Surely all teachers are able to read and write, aren't they? One man, John Corcoran from New Mexico, has a remarkable story about how he got through high school and college even though he was illiterate. He didn't just graduate from college, he became a teacher. John's problems started in the 2nd grade. By the end of the school year, most of the other students had learned the basics of reading, but John couldn't seem to grasp it. However, he was an intelligent child, and his teacher allowed him to pass to the next grade. By the time he finished the 5th grade, John had given up trying to read. Today, we would probably say John had dyslexia, but in those days, people didn't understand the condition. In high school, John was a good athlete who had excellent social skills. This helped him hide the fact that he couldn't read. When he took tests, he copied from other students or asked them to write the answers for him. By the time he went to college on an athletic scholarship, he had managed to pass all his tests without getting caught for cheating. Life got harder in college, though. Once, John broke into one of his professor's offices to find exam papers so he could get the answers. He knew it wasn't right. He needed help, but he had no idea who to turn to. When John graduated, he worked as an athletics coach. He also taught social studies and typing. By the time he retired as a teacher, John had been teaching for 17 years. In all that time, he hadn't once written on the board or written a comment on an assignment. In fact, he had never even read his students' assignments. You might think John's students would be angry at him or feel that he had ruined their education. However, according to John, all his students liked and respected him. And some even say he was their favorite teacher. John says that his problem forced him to find different ways of doing things. He led his students through a lot of discussions and watched educational movies with them. Perhaps that meant that his lessons involved students in a different way. However, John still felt that he made a mistake becoming a teacher because he knew that he didn't belong in the classroom. 8 years after leaving teaching, John saw a national literacy ad and decided it was finally time to learn to read. Admitting his problem wasn't easy, but John finally found the courage to tell his wife that he couldn't read and to ask a tutor to teach him. After keeping his illiteracy a secret for so many years, John has been on national TV shows to share his story. He now leads the John Corcoran Foundation and talks about his experiences in the hope that it encourages other people to seek help. Welcome back to Around Campus, the show that asks you what you think about our topic of the day. And today's topic is how we prefer to study. We want to know about you and your preferences. Our reporter, Haley Parker, went out to interview people around campus.
I'm outside the college library, and I'm going to ask a few people how they prefer to study. Excuse me, can I ask what your name is?
Sure. It's Zach.
How do you like to study, Zach?
How do I like to study? It depends. I'm studying Japanese. With some things, such as learning vocabulary, I prefer going through my notes alone rather than studying in a group. It gives me time to think over what I learned. However, I find it very hard to motivate myself when I study alone, so I try to study with other people sometimes. I think we motivate each other, and we share our ideas when we come across something new. It helps when you know that other people are facing the same difficulties you are.
Thanks! And what about you? What's your name? And how do you prefer to study?
Me? Oh, my name's Taylor. I like to learn different things in different ways. I play the piano, and I learned by constantly practicing alone. It's the only way. It's a physical skill, and your muscles need a lot of repetition. However, studying music theory is different. It's kind of boring. I'd rather study with other people than study by myself. It gives me a chance to discuss what I'm learning and see if I'm keeping up with everyone else. That's why I try to study with friends.
Thanks, Taylor. Let's ask one more person. Can I ask you to give us your name and tell us how you prefer to learn something new?
Sure. I'm Kayla. I prefer to do things rather than listen to an explanation. It's easy to miss key points when I'm listening and taking notes. When I do something active, I pick things up without making a lot of effort. My major is biology, and I learn much more by doing an experiment than by reading about it. When I get down to doing an experiment, I remember the steps I followed, the materials I used, and the results I got. My biology professors give a lot of lectures, so I'm thinking of changing my major. I'd prefer to major in chemistry. There's more lab work than lectures in chemistry.
Thanks, Kayla. Now back to the studio.
Thanks, Haley. Haley will be around campus next week asking, do you prefer electronic books to paper books? That's next week.
The skills you need. We want you to get the most out of your time at college. Summer vacations can be a great opportunity to learn more about yourself and develop your existing skills as well as learn new ones. We realize that summer is a chance to relax after investing a lot of time and energy in studying. However, in our experience, many of our most successful students volunteered, worked part-time, or traveled for at least part of their summer break. They learned important skills such as leadership, empathy, flexibility, and having a positive attitude. Contact the Dean of Student Affairs if you would like to know more about constructive ways in which you can make the most of your summer vacation.
Volunteers overseas. Want to know how to learn skills to add to your resume while having fun? Volunteers Overseas is here to help. We'll find you a place with a volunteer project in a country you choose. You might be helping a remote village get a supply of fresh water, or you might be teaching kids how to speak your language. Each volunteer stays with a local host family and shares their way of life. You'll learn about their culture, but you'll also learn a lot about yourself and develop curiosity about the world. Volunteers Overseas will help with all the practical advice you need, including information on visas and travel arrangements. Job recruiters often look for life experience as well as academic qualifications. Volunteers Overseas will help you get that life experience.
What a summer! I just got back from my summer trip overseas, and it was amazing. I enrolled in a language school to improve my Spanish. But it was the things I learned outside class that were really important. I met some fantastic people, and made some friends for life. When I left home 3 months ago, I had no idea I would change so much. I really learned a lot about myself on this trip. I learned patience and tolerance, and that it's important to have respect for other people's opinions. You're never going to agree on everything, but that doesn't mean you can't be really good friends. I also learned other interpersonal skills, and I'm a lot more sensitive to how other people are feeling. I feel like I learned so much while I was away, and I'm so ready for life after college now. Bring it on!
Good afternoon. There are a lot of young people in the audience, and I understand that quite a few of you are or soon will be working in movie or TV production. I want to talk about 4 current trends in the filmmaking industry. Definitely the most important trend, in the US at least, is that more and more people are streaming movies and TV shows instead of going to movie theaters. Here's the effect of streaming. The more people watch movies at home, the less variety there is in movies in theaters. If people don't go to the theaters, the big movie studios can't make as much money on ticket sales, so they make big blockbuster movies that will appeal to international audiences. As a result, they make more and more action movies and superhero movies, which tend to be popular all over the world. The blockbusters tend to be movie franchises, which means that there are 2, 3, or even more of each movie, so we get things like 10 movies for the franchise The Fast and the Furious. The movie studios have also realized that people watch action and superhero movies in theaters, not at home. Cinematography today is amazing, and the capabilities of CGI, computer-generated imagery, mean that special effects get better and better. CGI is especially important for creating the special effects in superhero movies. These movies look amazing on a big screen, and the soundtracks sound incredible on the theater sound systems. The better the technology gets, the more successful superhero movies are, and the more people go to the theater to see them. A second trend also associated with streaming is the increase in long-form TV shows. Filmmakers are now producing TV series that are broadcast over several seasons. There might be 6 to 10 episodes each season. Viewers can either watch new episodes each week during the season or binge watch. That is, watch all the episodes at once after a season is over. Independent filmmakers and streaming companies are having a lot of success with multi-hour TV shows. Now, there is a third trend that seems to be the opposite of big blockbuster action movies. We're seeing more and more interest in independent movies, movies that are not made by big studios, and foreign films. These movies appeal to young people, ages 18 to 30, which is the millennial generation. Independent filmmakers are doing some interesting things, such as using screenplays that were not written by Hollywood writers. Or they're shooting movies with different kinds of cameras, such as handheld cameras. These things can make movies seem authentic and more interesting than traditional movies. Sometimes, the more unusual a movie is, the more millennials like it. They also like independent movies because they often have strong social or political messages that young adults can identify with. The fourth trend is an increase in diversity in filmmaking. More and more women and minorities are getting top roles in American movies. There is also a growing number of non-American actors in major American movies, and there are more movies that are produced in cooperation with movie companies in other countries. An interesting example of some new trends in filmmaking was the 2018 movie Roma. The movie had a Mexican director. It was shot in black and white, and it was in Spanish. It was produced by Netflix and not by a traditional movie studio. The fact that it was nominated for 10 Academy Awards in 2019 and won 3 awards shows that the movie industry is changing a lot. I'll just close by saying that in our industry, it doesn't matter how creative you are or how successful you've been in the past. If you don't pay attention to the trends that are happening, that is, the types of movies that people want to watch and how they want to watch them, you will not succeed in the future. Thank you, and I'll take questions if you have any.
Welcome to Considerations. I'm Lorna Ramos, and my guest today is Sean Morrison. Sean is going to tell us what it's like to become a famous singer-songwriter almost overnight. Sean, before the show, you told me that you hadn't imagined what it would be like to suddenly be in the news all the time. How did you become a big news story?
You know, I think in the past, it was a lot harder to become well-known very suddenly. When I started, I had to try hard to get recording studios to listen to my music. I played in small clubs where almost nobody heard me. One day, I started posting my songs online and, well, people liked them and pretty soon I had millions of followers.
But you still weren't really in the news. How did that happen?
Some of my friends said that I should try out for a TV talent show. I didn't think I was good enough, but they insisted that I had enough talent. So I went ahead and auditioned and I got picked.
How did you feel when they told you that you were going to be on the show?
Oh, I was really nervous. I couldn't eat or sleep before the first show. There's a big difference between performing online and performing live. I thought I wouldn't be able to sing in front of all those people, but I did it.
Did you think you could win?
No way. Several of the contestants had a lot more experience than I did, but my coach on the show was wonderful. Her explanations about how to make my music better were really helpful, and she taught me the importance of self-confidence.
When did you start to feel like you were really becoming famous?
Well, when I became a finalist on the show, the local TV station asked if they could interview me. Then the newspaper did a story on me. After that, everything went crazy. It seemed like everyone in my whole town, not just my neighborhood, knew who I was.
And that was before you won.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when the judges announced that I had won. I felt so much happiness and excitement.
But then things started to go wrong, didn't they?
Yeah, somebody claimed that I hadn't written the original songs that I'd been performing online, and the false claim went viral. I made a video and explained that the claim wasn't true, but it didn't help, even when the person who had said it admitted that he had made it up. People started posting all kinds of crazy stuff about my songs, my voice, and even my appearance. I realized that the reality of being famous and in the news was a lot harder than I thought.
So how did you deal with the personal attacks?
I talked to my parents and my friends and realized that I was stressed all the time. I wasn't spending enough time on my music, and this instant fame was hurting my relationships with my family and my friends. It wasn't how I wanted to live my life. I knew I could do better.
So what are you doing now?
Well, I made some money from a few of my songs, and I'm using it to help pay for a degree in music.
Before we started, I think you mentioned that you might want to teach. Is that right?
Yes. I'm majoring in music education, and I'm already giving voice lessons to kids on weekends. I really enjoy it, and I think I'll be a good teacher.
Okay, Sean. It was so interesting to hear your story. Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, it was a shock to see false stories about myself on TV and online. People who didn't even know me thought it was okay to say anything they wanted about me, true or not. It made me realize that I love my music more than being famous. After overcoming all the negative comments, I understand that I can fill my life with positive people and positive actions. If I become famous, that's okay. If not, I will always have my music.
Getting a job in social media. You're a digital native. You're on several different social media sites. Your social media handle is perfect, and you have hundreds of followers. You know how to create avatars, GIFs, memes, and mashups. Some of your videos have gone viral. You know how to use hashtags effectively to link your posts to things that are trending online. You have even created a webinar to teach teenagers to use social media safely. Your social media skills should make it easy for you to get a job in social media, right? Maybe not. Getting a job in social media is not only about social media. When you think about jobs in social media, you may think that means working for one of the large international social media companies. Some people do work in those companies, but more often working in social media means that you work for a company and use social media to help promote its products or services. A social media job is most often a marketing job. A common entry-level social media job is social media coordinator, which usually involves writing posts about things the company is doing, working with the marketing department to create messages that represent the image of the company, working with company or marketing managers to plan strategies for how best to use social media, and reading and responding to messages from clients or from the public. When managers want to hire someone for a social media job, they will usually look at the job candidate's social media presence. They want to know what social media platforms you use, what avatars or photos you use, what kinds of content you post, and how well you write. If your avatar or photo is a grumpy cat, and your posts don't say much more than, "Ugh, this cat is totally me on a Monday, you guys," companies are not going to be very interested in you, no matter how many technical skills you have. They want to know that you can write well and that you have something interesting to say. To prepare for a career in social media, there are several things you should do. First, make sure you are on at least 4 or 5 social media sites and become an expert at using each of them. Use them to post meaningful, interesting content, not just photos of your pets and comments about your last beach vacation. Second, attend conferences or take online courses on how to use social media in business. Learn the language and terms specific to social media. Third, expand your social media network to include people and organizations in your industry. This will show employers that you are serious and professional. Finally, find people who have the types of jobs you might want and connect with them. Follow them to learn about what they do and possibly to find out about job openings. Most social media jobs require a college degree. Since one of the main requirements for a social media job is writing skills, a degree in language or communication, along with a strong social media presence, is a good choice. Because most social media jobs are focused on marketing, a degree in advertising or marketing is also an excellent qualification. Chance discoveries. People who don't work in scientific fields may think that all scientists follow the scientific method when they do research. When scientists want the answer to a question, they usually form a hypothesis and design an experiment to test the hypothesis. Then they carry out the experiment and reach a conclusion. If the hypothesis isn't absolutely correct, the scientists form a new hypothesis and the process continues. However, the scientific method doesn't include an important factor: luck. Luck has played a large part in some of the most important scientific discoveries. For instance, luck played an important role when Sir Alexander Fleming discovered the first antibiotic, penicillin, in 1928. Fleming was studying bacteria when he noticed something highly unusual. A dish that had been left near a window had green mold growing on it. The mold seemed to kill the bacteria, which was a totally unexpected result. Fleming and his assistants did further tests and found that the mold produced a chemical, now known as penicillin, which killed the bacteria. The discovery of X-rays and radioactivity also involved luck. In 1895, Wilhelm Röntgen was using a piece of equipment called a cathode ray tube. When Röntgen filled the tube with a special gas and connected it to an electric current, the tube produced ultraviolet radiation. The radiation made a screen covered with a barium compound glow. By chance, Röntgen placed heavy paper between the tube and the screen continued to glow. Röntgen discovered that X-rays, as he called them, went through objects. A year after Röntgen's discovery, French physicist Henri Becquerel was studying X-rays using a chemical containing uranium. He thought sunlight made the chemical produce X-rays. He covered some photographic plates with black paper, put the chemicals on top, and left them in the sun. The image of the uranium crystals was on the plate. He thought his hypothesis was absolutely right. One day it was cloudy, so Becquerel didn't do any experiments. He put his chemicals and photographic plates in a drawer. By chance, he developed the photographs from the drawer, even though it was highly unlikely he would find an image. To his surprise, he saw the image of the crystals. He had discovered that the chemicals, not the sunlight, caused radioactivity. His hypothesis had been completely wrong. Today, penicillin, X-rays, and radioactive chemicals are used in medicine around the world. The world would be a very different place if we didn't have them. Fleming, Röntgen, and Becquerel were all lucky, but they were also prepared. If they hadn't spent years in their laboratories, they wouldn't have had the expertise they needed to use their luck. In addition, they were curious and open-minded. As a result, they discovered things that other scientists had not noticed. Some people argue that highly successful people use these same skills in life, not just in science. If you have the right expertise and the right attitude, you will be able to make the most of your luck. The Great Debate. We asked our readers, do we need more control over scientific research for ethical reasons? Here are the top 2 comments. Agree with more control over scientific research. I think we need more control over the scientific research in progress today. Scientific discoveries are being made that are just too dangerous to be allowed. We need to monitor the latest research and guard against the dangers they present. For example, scientists are already able to create brain cells in a lab. What happens if genetic research leads scientists to create human clones, exact genetic copies of people? Will we be able to choose whether our children are tall, intelligent, good-looking, or athletic one day? Is that the kind of world we want to live in? Unless we control scientists, they will do these things and more. Once that happens, it will be too late to stop it. We need to have clear ethical rules saying what scientists can and can't do. We have to let ordinary citizens make decisions about what should be allowed. Scientists can't be trusted to make decisions. Since their research is often funded by large organizations and businesses, there is pressure on them to produce results. Provided that we have clear international rules, we can prevent some of the worst experiments from being done for scientific purposes. Nathan. Disagree with more control over scientific research. Nobody argues that scientists should be completely free to do what they want. Of course, there have to be some ethical rules in case someone decides to do something that is clearly dangerous, such as create a virus. However, there are far too many restrictions on scientific research these days. One such restriction is on stem cell research. If they had fewer restrictions, scientists might be able to get rid of some genetic diseases completely. Children would no longer be born with diseases such as sickle cell anemia or hemophilia. People could become resistant to HIV. Scientists could develop these cures if they were allowed to carry out more experiments using stem cells. This kind of work is often restricted because public opinion is against it. Sometimes people are against it for cultural reasons, and sometimes it's because they don't understand the nature of the research. For example, scientists who work in human cloning are generally not trying to recreate an existing human being, which is the way it's often presented in the media. They are trying to develop treatments for diseases. As long as there is no immediate danger, we should let scientists carry out their work without interference. If scientists hadn't continued their research in spite of ethical objections in the past, we would never have developed organ transplants or genetically modified plants. Both of those discoveries benefit millions of people every year. Hannah.